My background before any business was actually a car mechanic, and I was just in the trades. I never finished college, and I actually grew up really poor. So that's kind of it was really through God's journey that brought me to where I am today. And me and Nelly, we moved into my in-laws' basement, and we couldn't afford storage. So we moved from a 1,700 square foot house to a 300 square foot studio apartment in the basement, and I couldn't afford storage. So we pulled all of our furniture, our king size bed, our living room furniture. I was literally crying myself to sleep. So that's how I got into high ticket sales. My dad was just crushing it in high ticket sales. I never wanted to be a salesperson. Obedience, because that's the key. That's the key right there. And it's not just being obedient with money, it's being obedient with all the resource God gives us, being obedient with our time, being obedient with our thoughts, with our actions. In the Bible, there's so many blessings for obedience, so when you give God full obedience in every area of your life, not just like your finances, I would say the number one skill is just loving people. Because when you love people and you genuinely want to help them achieve the goal that they want to achieve, that's how you get what you want.
All right. So today we have Jason Verdera, a good friend of mine on the Maven Workshop podcast. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks, Gabe. What an honor to be here with you.
So yeah, I just wanted to bring you on the Maven Workshop, and we've talked a little bit about what it is and why it exists, and the reason that I feel like God has put this on my plate, and he puts all of he puts lots of things on lots of different people's plates, right, based on their gifts and their abilities and their talents, and so we'll get into that today. I know you've written about that in your book, the Kingdom Wealth Principles. And so we'll give that a little plug right now, and at the end here, we'll let everybody know where they can find that, or where they can access any resources that you have available for them. But I just want to welcome you and say that I was extremely impressed when I first met you. I don't know if you remember the conversation we had. It was kind of one of the first kind of Golden Eagle events at that house out in Del Mar.
I remember that, Gabe.
And so it's I was really nervous going into that. It was kind of the first event I had kind of been to with a bunch of guys, and from what I had understood or gathered, a lot of high level men, operating at a high level, basically mavens in their own right. And just for those of you that are watching, maybe don't know what a maven is someone who's dazzlingly skilled in their field and has a gift and a talent and wants to share that gift and talent with other people to kind of bring them along as well and help them grow. So I saw you that night as a maven in your industry, doing big things. And so I want to honor you for that. And also thank you for saying yes to being on the podcast today.
Thanks, Gabe. Such an honor. And I remember that night too. I don't remember exactly what we discussed, but I remember meeting you and just thinking you were just the coolest dude. So it's a blessing that we got to actually connect that night and actually got to speak to each other. And now we're here.
Yeah. So let's start off. We'll just start off real easy here and give us a little bit of background of who you are, kind of maybe, where you grew up, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah. So of course, first and foremost, give honor to God. That's the first thing. I'm a child of God. I wouldn't be anywhere without him. Everything he's given me, I don't deserve, so I'm always grateful for God's grace. On top of that, I'm also we just celebrated. I'm a happy husband of 20 years, Gabe. 20 years we just celebrated last month.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. And the father of 4. So I got four amazing kids. They're actually on their way home now. They're out in Legoland. I got the whole range. I got a baby that's 2, all the way up to a 14-year-old, and they're just such a blessing in my life. But going back to my background, so my business now is in sales. I'm in high ticket sales, also in coaching. We coach high ticket sales, and also a real estate investor. Um, but my
Yes.
background before any business was actually a car mechanic, and I was just in the trades. I never finished college, and I actually grew up really poor. So that's kind of it was really through God's journey that brought me to where I am today. That kind of had me to step out of my shell to get into business, because otherwise, you've read my book, Abe. It was really through a period of financial kind of destitution that led me to seek other opportunities in business. Otherwise, I'd be a car mechanic to this day, you know.
Oh,
But we've been able to
wow.
do so many bigger things because of the valley season that I went through, and I would never change that. That's why I know through my experience and seeking God that He puts us through those valley experiences, not to punish us, but to grow us. You know, and if not for that, I would have never gotten out of my comfort zone. I would have never seeked other opportunities, and I would have just been comfortable where I was at, struggling check for check, and we were not even making meet.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
Wow. So to when you mentioned right now about being a car mechanic, that you would still be that to this day, had you not, kind of pushed through and you know, seeked out other opportunities. Um, have you ever like kind of just thought about that? Like just, like wow, like this could have been my life. And if so, how has that made you feel?
I think one, it definitely humbles me, but there'll be times where I'm like slacking off
Mm,
on my business, and I'll literally get dreams of me going back to being a car mechanic. And those dreams will literally scare me back into action, you know?
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think those areas of struggle where remembering how life used to be really humbles me to respect where I am right now. Not to take any of it for granted, because it could all be taken away. So to really respect it, and to humble me, because I know if not for God, what life could have looked like, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I it's definitely something I reflect on periodically, because it definitely keeps me centered.
What advice could you give someone that's, maybe in that valley season right now, and they're struggling and trying to make ends meet, maybe lost the car, struggling with the rent payment or the mortgage payment. There's another kid on the way. Those stresses that we all face. What are a couple of things that you might be able to say to them to kind of encourage them to kind of push through?
Yeah, yeah. One is, what's the lesson that needs to be learned through this experience? Because like when we go through the valley experience, it's a reciprocal cycle. It's the actions that we make that got us there. We're all exactly where
Mm,
we are in life because of our decisions. If we make different decisions, we're going to be in a different place in life. So what are the things that we need to learn in order to make a different decision to get to a different place in life? Are we always uh, saying no to hard work, or saying no to opportunities when they come our way? Are we acting out in fear rather than in faith? Are we really putting all out massive action to achieving a goal, or are we like sitting on the couch and just watching TV? So
mm,
there was a time period for about like 7 years where we didn't watch any TV, me and my wife. We actually didn't even own a TV for a good couple years of our life because we had goals that we wanted to achieve. And we knew just sitting down watching TV was going to distract us from our goals. So we actually didn't own a TV up until I think 2 years ago. we finally got it when we moved into this house. When we bought this
Wow.
house in 23, we
Yeah.
finally bought a TV, and we haven't had one since like I think 2015 or something like that. So that's what it is. Like we are exactly where we are in life because of the decisions that we've made, and if we want to be in a different area and improve other areas in our life, we have to make different decisions. So what do we have to learn, and what is going on in our life? What's the lesson that we have to learn through the experience that we're having now, so that we can make different decisions?
Got it. Amazing. Amazing. Um, Going back to so for yourself, I know in your book you shared some of your early story of the struggle. People might look at this video and be like, "Oh, he's got a nice office there. Books everywhere. He's got a exercise area in the back there. He must be doing well." But from reading your book, I know that it hasn't always been like that. And so share with the audience here a little bit about really kind of as much as you're comfortable with, but at least what was in the book probably, where you guys were.
Yeah. So our financial struggles, um, it started during the 2008 recession. I got married in 2006. We bought our house 2008. Everything collapsed. We tried to short sell our home, couldn't short sell it. We were pretty much stuck with it, but we couldn't even afford it because we racked up about 65,000 in credit card debt. So that's kind of what started the ball rolling towards kind of financial destitution. And in order to save our house, first we tried to sell it. We couldn't sell it, but then our realtor gave us idea to rent it out, and we rented it out at a loss. It cost us $200 a month just to put another family in there to pay our mortgage.
Jeez.
So
My
yeah,
goodness.
and me and Nelly, we moved into my in-laws basement, and we couldn't afford storage. So we moved from a 1,700 square foot house to a 300 square foot studio apartment in the basement, and I couldn't afford storage. So we pulled all of our furniture, our king size bed, our living room furniture, and we crammed it in that studio apartment. And I wish I had a picture of it because it looked crazy. It looked like a furniture warehouse because we were stacking we were stacking our dressers on
Wow.
top of each other. I couldn't fit the king size bed and our sectional couch in that one room that we had. So we stood up the king size bed and mattress up against the wall. We pushed the couch up against the mattress to hold the mattress up. It was a sectional, so it was an L. And then I just folded the L into a square. And then we put a comforter on that couch. And me and Nelly slept on that couch for like 2.5 years, you know?
Wow.
And it was at that point.
So you've seen the bottom of the bottom.
Yeah, yeah. I was literally crying myself to sleep. Literally crying myself to sleep. We were not paying my in-laws rent. And at that point, I was unemployed. And my wife was working. She was supporting me, So can you imagine I had my tail tucked between my legs. I'm living in my in-laws' house, not paying them rent. Their daughter's taking care of me, and I'm supposed to be taking care of their daughter. So I was literally crying myself to sleep, and it was at that point I knew like something had to change. So I was just looking for opportunities,
Yeah.
alternative ways to make money. I knew it was gonna cut it. It wasn't gonna cut it working as an auto mechanic because I was making like $500 a week, and even if I got another full time
Mm.
job, and I worked two full time jobs, and let's say I got another like 400, $500 a week, it still would have taken me like 10 years just to get out of debt and start over. So I was like, I need to
Yeah.
do something a lot more aggressive than just make a couple $100 at the end of the week. So that's how I got into high ticket sales. My dad was just crushing it in high ticket sales. I never wanted to be a salesperson. I was super shy. I was the kind of person you go into a room at a party and I stick to my same two friends and I won't like mingle. I won't talk to anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I'm like the complete opposite, but that's the kind of person I was. So I never really wanted to be in sales, but it's through that desperation that made me want to make a change. And I love this quote. It says
Uh-huh.
there's usually two things that causes a person to make a drastic change in their life. It's either inspiration or desperation. And for me, it was definitely desperation. And
Mm,
that's what pushed me to get over my
yeah.
comfort zone, to start talking to people. And I was horrible at first, but just like any industry, you just never quit. You're gonna learn, you're gonna get better, and you're gonna succeed.
Yeah.
You know
You got to put in the reps, right?
exactly. Say 10,000
Yeah.
hours to be an expert at anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So would you say that when that time period in your life when you made a decision to continue looking for something, some opportunity, would you say that would be the I guess defining moment in your life that kind of split everything to before and after? Like, so before things were tough, I had the certain mindset, or was it that particular time, or were there other moments, I guess?
100%. No, it was that defining moment being in that basement. So that's why I always thank God for that season of being in that basement. At the time, it was the lowest and worst part of my life. I would never want to be in that, but now I see why it happened. Now I see the puzzles that was put together that God put me through to refine me, to help push me out of my comfort zone, to help me to want to learn. When I was in that basement, I got so hungry for self-development, you know, because I was desperate for anything. That's actually when I started tithing, even, because I we were so broke. I didn't know how to fix my finances. It was my mother-in-law who said, "Well, do you tithe?" I was like, "No, I don't tithe. I don't have enough for me at the end of the month. Why would I give money away?" But she said, just do it because you're stealing from God. And honestly, when I just started doing it because I was desperate enough to be like, okay, God, you said this. My mother-in-law says that you said this. I'm gonna do this. I need help. I don't know what else to do. So that's why I started tithing, and I believe in it so strongly now because I saw the change in my finances. Just little things started to happen when I started tithing. I was starting to put like a full tank of gas in my car. I was able to like check out on groceries without having to put stuff back on the shelves. It was just like little
Yeah, yeah.
minute changes.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. The part I know that you haven't shared yet, which I just want to add, was it it where you guys lived was not palm trees and sunshine, right?
No,
So there was,
no, no. This was Staten Island, New York.
yeah. So there was cold winters.
Yeah, that's where I'm originally from. Oh yeah, yeah. Very cold winters, very hot summers.
Wow. So yeah, so you guys have been through it, and thankfully, because of your obedience, right, and continuing to tithe and give to God and put God first, you guys have a beautiful home now, and blessed being able to bless other people. So
Thank you. And you know what? I love that you use the word obedience because that's the key. That's the key
yeah,
right there. And it's not just being obedient with money; it's being obedient with all the resource God gives us. Being obedient with our time, being obedient with our thoughts, with our actions. In the Bible, there's so many blessings for obedience. So when you give God full obedience in every area of your life, not just like your finances, it says it's going to bless you in the country, bless you in the city, bless your barns, bless your everything. So
everything will overflow.
yeah, amen.
Um, Talk to me a little bit about your business. I know you said that it has to do with sales, and how has that business affected your lives?
Yeah, I feel like I'm literally in the best business, best industry in the world. I know it's the only one that I've ever I've ever done in high ticket sales. But the way I see it, it's when our income is tied to time, you'll never be able to grow
Mm,
financially, because we'll
that's
always
good.
be restricted with how many hours we could spend in the day until you could break your income from being tied to time by having leverage and having passive income. That's the only way that you'll be able to grow, so it's just been amazing. We've been with them for about 14 years now. So the high ticket sales company we're with, they're a health and wellness company called Enagic. They deal with hydrogen water. They just released all a bunch of different other products as well. But the main thing that I've sold for the last 15 years is our it's alkalized hydrogen water. So celebrities, doctors, it's just exploding all over the world. We just got back from Japan a couple of weeks ago. The health and wellness movement is just booming, especially with the water. People are finally learning now that you need to get away from plastic bottles, all the chemicals leached into plastic bottles, um, and soft drinks, energy drinks, kids dying from cardiac arrest. So it's a really really powerful stuff, and I got involved with it because of my dad. And he pretty much kind of like showed me the way. I was a slow learner and a really stubborn
Yeah.
student, but eventually you just keep trekking the path and then you just keep growing. So we have teams all over the world now that help us sell. So that's where our leverage comes from, because it's a hybrid direct sales network marketing. So every one of our customers can also become distributors as well. So we help other people make sales all over the globe. We sell online through our coaching platform. So we have an online coaching platform as well,
Mhm.
which is also an additional income stream for us, but goes hand in hand with our sales business. So God actually just gave us that idea for the coaching platform about like 2 3 years ago, because I was doing it for free for like a decade. So it was like package it and sell it, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah, 100%.
Lord.
Yeah, it's one of those things when you're gifted to be able to do something, or God put something on your plate that, it's there for a reason, right? And like I said, that's where with the Maven Workshop, all of the gifts and the talents that we each individually possess, no matter how big or small, I believe that there's a reason that God gave those to you, right? There's things that you can do that I don't know how to do, and vice versa, right? And the person watching this. And so it's just exciting to watch people, like when I talk to people and they begin to kind of open up about that gifting or that talent or that one thing that they love to do, but it's not their main thing yet. I get excited. Like I've been brought to like almost tears, getting excited for the person, especially even when they don't see it themselves. Right? It's something that I know that they're passionate about, and so I got that from you that night, right? That first night we kind of talked. I knew that there was something about what you were doing that you were passionate about, and yeah, so it's exciting for me. You mentioned uh, being stubborn with when it was presented to you by your dad, and I want you to talk a little bit about kind of how you got over that, because I know for me personally, I can tell this story real quick. When I was, you may have been older, but when I was probably 15, 16 years old, my dad, who was very entrepreneurial, I didn't know it at the time, but growing up and watching him kind of do all these different things, um, he had this entrepreneur spirit in him. And he handed me at 15 or 16 years old a box full of cassette tapes, right? Because that was the generation I'm from. But it was a box of Tony Robbins cassette tapes, the Personal Power, the whole set, right? Like, I don't know, it was $1,200
Nice.
of tapes. And do you think I listened to it? I did not. It sat in my house for probably 2 months, and my dad would always check in on me because he lived in LA. He'd check in on me. Did you listen to those tapes yet? Did you listen to those tapes yet? Did you listen to those tapes yet? And, it finally got to the point where and I was being, a stubborn 15, 16-year-old. What does this old man have to say to me? What are these cassette tapes? There's so many cassette tapes in here. I'm not going to listen to all of those things. Um, you know, Now, or as I got older, I wished that I had listened to those. It may have changed the trajectory of my life, right? Maybe put me on a different path. Maybe, though, I also think about maybe I would have never met my wife. Maybe I would have never had the kids I have. So, it's kind of a double-edged sword. But talk to me a little bit about that season and how you kind of got through that kind of stubbornness and
Yeah. Um, I mean, for me, that's why I was a slow learner.
Mm,
I kind of have to fail forward, you know. I do things my way. That doesn't work out, then I pivot. I do it another way. But that's one thing that I kind of credit to myself is that I never quit and I always pivot, you know.
mhm,
So it took me a couple of years to get my foot in the industry, but then that's why I say, like, literally anybody can do this industry. Actually, I love this quote by Darren Hardy. He's the author of
mm,
publisher of Success magazine, and his I forgot what his famous book was called. I forgot, but his quote, it goes like this. It says, what he says about our industry, it says, it's one of the few industries that offers average people with above average ambition to achieve an above average lifestyle, freedom, and peace of mind. And and I love that quote so much because that's exactly who I was. You know, I was a high school dropout, and I didn't finish school. I didn't go to college. And actually, funny story, I was in a party with some like elderly Filipino guys. It was actually a party for like priests and stuff. And I was seated at a table with like this successful Filipino guy. He asked me what school what university did I graduate in, and I was like, oh no, I didn't finish school. He was like, you didn't finish
mhm.
school. He was like, oh, you should go back and finish school. I was like, no, I do really well with what I do. He was like, yeah, but it's good. You should really finish school. It'd be good for you. I was like, no, I do really, really well with what I do. And he was like, no, it's good. He was like, you don't get it. I mean, that's just a traditional thinking of a lot of
Yeah,
older Filipinos. But that's why I wholeheartedly believe that anybody could be successful in any sales, really. You know, it's one of the best industries where anyone could come from any walk of life and achieve massive success if they put the work in and they never give up. You know, that's the only thing I did was just really never give up, and I just kept learning. You know, a lot of people, there's like a story called 3 Feet from Gold where people quit, and they're just so close. They're like right over the edge of breakthrough. You know, and they're just 3 feet from gold, and then they
yeah,
quit. You know, so if you don't quit, you just keep going and keep learning, you could be great at anything. I could literally, if I choose right now at this moment to be an astronaut, and I put every effort forward to doing it, and I could be an astronaut, you know, or a brain surgeon, whatever you
yeah.
want. You could be successful at. You just gotta go
Right.
all in.
Yeah. No, it makes me think of the one of my favorite movies that my wife despises. She doesn't like to watch it because of the pain that's in the movie. But The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith.
Yep,
Um,
exactly. That's proof right there.
so yeah, so it's you right now when you said an astronaut or whatever, that was basically the conversation he had with his wife, right? Because he's like, I want to go check this out, this stockbroker thing, and she's like, what, like not an astronaut, like, and he's like, I'm just gonna check it out, like I'm gonna do it, like don't worry about it, like and it's having that kind of fight in you, right? That fire of believing, even if it's a small little mustard seed, right? Like the Bible says of faith or of belief, It can be done. You can make something happen.
Yeah.
Um, The Compound Effect, is that the book?
Yes.
Darren Hardy?
There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it is. It just clicked. It just hit me right
Yeah.
now.
Speaking
Good
of that
book.
pursuit of happiness, I had a moment very
Yep.
similar to him, where do you remember like what made him choose to want to get into that industry? He was just walking down the street. He just saw a guy coming out of Ferrari.
Yeah.
He had no idea what the stock market was. He was like, I don't know anything about that, but I saw you come out of Ferrari dressed in a nice suit, so I'm gonna do what you do.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the thought that I had in my head actually, which made me want to walk away from being an auto mechanic, was that I was a car mechanic in Mercedes Benz, and I
Mm,
look at that top mechanic in Mercedes Benz, and he was like this elderly guy. He always got like the best jobs, the ones that made the most money,
hmm
and he was making about 75,000 a year, and he was just complaining about life. He was always stressing. He hated life, and I was like, that's the ladder I'm trying to climb,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know. And that's when I knew it was like there's got to be a shift. I gotta start changing my decisions, because all my decisions led me up to there, and I just saw my future through that guy, and I said that's not the future that I want for myself. You know?
I think it's important what you just said is being aware of your situation, because some people would be in your situation and just say, oh well, these are the cards I was dealt, and I'm just gonna, this is the life I'm gonna live. There's no more, right? There's no vision in the person. And I think that's why um the Maven workshop is important to me, because that is what I want to do. I want to help encourage people to see your story and to know that you were living in the situation you were living in, all of your furniture in this little space, in the cold, you know, and having to pay somebody to be able to pay your mortgage, from that to the life that you live now. And I believe that 98% of people have the I guess the ability to, um, but a lot of people don't have the eyes. They don't have the vision. They don't have the belief. Like you said, the elderly people that you were talking to, they're very the mindset, because of how we grew up, or who we grew up around, and things have changed, right? Because maybe when they grew up, you went to school, you got a degree, you got a job, you worked there for 40 years, and you got a pension, and and things were good. But that's not the life we live in anymore, obviously, right? But we do live in a life where you can take a skill like sales and put your head down and say, I'm going to learn this. Or, Gary Vaynerchuk always tells a story about, like, man, if you love candles and you want to sell candles, like, and you post candles on Instagram, like, you can make that happen. Like, we live in a world now where things like that can happen. High ticket, low ticket, digital products, all of these things will stem from a gift, a talent, a fire on the inside of you, a knowledge that you have, that I believe was given to you so that you can share with the world, to glorify God with those gifts, and to be able to, bless other people, and in turn bless your family,
Yeah,
because they'll be able to provide an
exactly.
income for
Amen.
you.
And that's why I love what you're doing over here with the Maven podcast, Gabe, because you're like picking the brains of people who've done great things.
Mm,
And that's kind of the journey where I'm at now, and where I'm kind of uh I'm excited about, because instead of climbing that ladder that I was climbing as an auto mechanic.
Hmm.
Like my new vision of the ladder I'm climbing now is climbing the cash flow quadrant, getting all the way to the end of employee to what do you call it? The self-employed to business owner, and then to investors. So we're a little bit in all of them now. We invest in real estate and stuff, but there's people that do things at such a higher level than even what
Yeah.
we're doing. And it's like, what do they know? What do they know that I don't know to get to that level? And I've been just researching a whole lot of stuff just about like legacy and tax strategy and stuff like that, and it's pretty exciting. Like they there's like secrets that they know to be able to protect their money and
Right.
pass their money for generations, because there's plenty of people who make money and it only lasts one generation, only lasts their life, maybe
Yeah.
their kids, and that's it. We just
Yeah.
watched this movie called Sarah's Oil,
Mm.
which I think it's on Netflix. It's a really cool movie. And it's also kind of like spirit filled. They talk about God in the movie too, but it's a movie about post slave America, where this lady Sarah got a ton of land from the government because her family used to be slaves. So at that time, they gave the family of slaves land. Turns
Mm.
out her land had one of the biggest oil deposits in the entire country, and
Oh,
people are
wow.
trying to kill her, cheat her, send lawyers
Oh my
to
gosh.
steal the land. But they weren't able to take it from her. She was actually the richest African American in the United States of that time.
Wow.
And the movie was made. They got the help of her descendants, her grandchildren, to help tell her story. And then I looked up and I researched who her grandchildren were, and they're just everyday average people, just struggling to get by, And I'm like, wait a second, she was the wealthiest
Mm.
in of that time,
Yeah.
and in 2 generations they lost it all. I was like, that is wild. So what are,
Yeah.
what are the things that legacy families like the Rockefellers and stuff like that know, that are able to transfer their wealth for generation after generation to last 100 or more years? They're
Yeah.
doing something
Yeah.
different. So that's that, and they got all these secrets, and I've been investing in like courses and stuff to like learn what that stuff is, and it's pretty cool.
I think you said something powerful there, Jason, and it's something that I think I come across people all the time that, I buy apps. I if it's something that will benefit me, something that, I do a lot of video recording and things like that. If it's something that I know is a tool that will help me, then I buy it. I pay for it. And I've come across people who say like, "Oh, I would never pay for an app. Like, yeah, it's too expensive." But it's helping me do what I need to do, and that's what you're doing, right? You're buying tools and training. You're doing something that's going to benefit you. Um, I always talk with my wife Deanna about having the right tool. And this goes to a conversation we had way back where she said, "Oh, can you fix this thing?" And at the time, I didn't have a toolbox. I didn't have the right tool. And she's like, "Oh, can't you just use like a butter knife to like It's like bust my knuckles. I've done that before in my lifetime, and I don't want to do that." And so we had this little conversation because at the point it was kind of like like just do it, just get it done. And so it's gotten to the point now where she's learned that from me. Like it's important to have the right tool, whether it's fixing something or, something in life, right? Something in to level yourself up, right? To have that education, that training, that course, whatever it is that's going to help you. Um, so I think what you said about that is it's powerful, and it's something I think that you have to be willing to invest in yourself, right? It's not It's not I'm spending money or I'm wasting money. Definitely research whatever program you're looking at. Don't just throw money away, but research it. And if it's something that is going to benefit you and get you to the next level, by all means, get the credit card, save the money, do whatever you got to do to get yourself in that circle and in that environment, right? To learn that's
A
gonna
hundred
help you to
percent.
flourish.
100%. Like
Uh,
literally, a tool like that could
yeah,
shave off years, save you years of your life, and that's all it is.
yeah, yeah,
You spend money on a tool, but the tool is going to save you on the most valuable resource that you have, which is time. Time's the most
yeah,
valuable
yeah.
resource. It's the only resource that once it's gone, we never get back. We can't make any more of.
Can't get it
Yeah,
back.
but we
Yeah.
could save it by getting the right tool. And actually, that's something I've always believed in, because that's something I learned as an auto mechanic, how important the right tool was, because having the right tool can turn like a 1 hour job into a 15-minute job, where like I don't have to take
Yeah,
out
yeah.
like all the tubes, all the belts and stuff. If I could just get this one tool that like wiggles its way to the bolt that I need to, but it's the same thing in
Hmm.
life.
Yeah,
A tool, a course,
100%.
or a book, might unlock that secret that's going to get you 10 years ahead of your goals, or shave off 5 years from what you're trying to do.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Love that,
Yeah.
Gabe.
Um, okay, let's talk a little bit about I want to touch on because I know you've mentioned and I'm sure that the people watching or listening have picked up that you're a man of faith. So I want to talk a little bit about faith and purpose. So for you, when did faith first become something personal to you? Um, not something you just inherited. Like, so I guess you would share your background a little bit about your faith, because I don't know your full background. But share when you realized that there was a God,
Yeah.
and then kind of took control, or made it personal for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. We might need a whole nother podcast just for that, Gabe. No, but I'll try to make it as the shortened version. But
Yeah.
um I believe in miracles because I believe my life's a miracle, and it's all thanks to God, Um to put in one sentence, um I God gave me the life that I have now when I know I could or should be dead or in jail.
Mm,
Just to wrap it all up in one sentence,
yeah.
and that's also what like really keeps me humble, is because I know the sinful person that I was, and in my teens, I was a bully. I hurt people.
Mm,
I've got into drugs, um, and despite all that, God gave me a life that I don't deserve. Um, one of my favorite sayings, that he who has been forgiven much loves much.
mm,
uh I forgot what scripture that was, but um I feel like, um well, it was in my teens. It was about like 18. I had an encounter from God, and it was actually through a drug episode experience. I was on shrooms, and I thought I took too much. I thought I was going to die, and it was at that moment where like my whole life flashed before my eyes, and I was like, Lord, I don't want to die. Why am I dying tonight? Because up to that point, I grew up Catholic, and I knew of God, but I didn't know Him, but because of my background, when I thought I was going to die, that's who I ran to. And I said, why am I going to die tonight? And then uh an inner voice said, this is why you're going to die tonight. And I saw every sin that I committed leading up to that point in like an instant.
wow.
And then I was like, Lord, let me make it through the night, and I'll give my life to you. And that morning I woke up in my friend's basement and I was like, what in the world just happened?
Oh,
And and when I woke up from that basement, I didn't know at the time until later on, reading the Bible, maybe like 10 years later, that was a Holy Spirit encounter. And when I woke up that morning, there was a new conviction in me that never existed before.
wow.
So when I was like doing like crazy things, like doing drugs, jumping kids, and selling, and my wife always asked me when I told her all these things I used to do, she was like, "Didn't you know that was wrong?" And I was like, "Honestly, no. I just thought it was fun."
Mm,
And but that morning, I had a conviction. Now I knew these things were wrong, and I'm like, I can't keep doing that. But then there was also a part of me that thought like, was that even real, or was that just the drugs?
wow. Yeah.
But I just couldn't shake it off. I was like, these things are like wrong. So but like there's part of me that still questioned it. And then a couple of weeks later, I we did it again. We were taking shrooms. We were in the city in Manhattan, and we were walking down the street, and I'm walking down the street and I see crosses everywhere. Everywhere where there's like a perpendicular line start to glow a cross. And then I was like, what is going on here? And I'm like freaking out. And then I'm like walking by the side of the sidewalk, right by the curb. I almost get hit by a box truck. And I jump out of the way. It startles me. I look up at the truck, and it's a company called Guaranteed Overnight Delivery.
Yeah.
And their trucks used to be big white box trucks with a big GOD. And then so I jump out of the way and I look at it. I'm like, what in the world is going on? And now I'm starting to feel like God's like chasing me down.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is happening here? And then that night just carried on. I was still like questioning it. And then a couple weeks later, we did again. We went to a friend's house, and I'm like, maybe this time, I just can't take that much shrooms. I'm just gonna just take just a little bit. I just took like a tiny little cap. And then again, I started like freaking out. My friends were like tired of me freaking out. They were like, all right, let's just put Jason in the basement, a nice finished basement, not a scary basement. They were like, Jay, you are all right. You're all right. Let's just go downstairs. You'll be safe there. And I'm like, okay, okay. I go downstairs. I'm in the basement, and um, they leave the lights on. They put me on the couch. They go upstairs, close the door. Once they leave, the TV turns on, and then there's a preacher on the TV. And I don't know what preacher it was, but it's kind of like the one that like breaks the fourth wall, that talks into the camera.
Yeah.
And it was like, God's been seeking you out. He's been seeking you out. Call to him right now. Call on Jesus at the top of your lungs. And I'm like looking around. I'm like, me, and I'm like, cause I'm under the influence. So I'm like losing it. I thought he was actually talking to me. He was like calling him on the top of your lungs. And I just screamed, Jesus, I need you at the top of my lungs. And then my friends are upstairs laughing hysterically.
Wow.
So they're laughing hysterically upstairs. Um, that night carries on. And then the next morning, something was a little different. So the next morning, I wasn't 100% sober. It was kind of like I felt like
Mm,
and my friends noticed it right away. When I came up from downstairs, we were like all getting ready to go back home. I drove us there in my car. I'm here holding my keys. And then, my friend looks me in the face. He could see something's off. He's like, Jay, are you all right? And I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. He was like, no, you're not. And he grabs my keys to drive,
yeah.
and driving back home. God was just like identifying all the sin nature in my life,
Mm,
and in my car. And so I had like all drug paraphernalia in my car. So as we're driving in the highway, I roll down my window and I'm throwing it out my window on the highway. And my friends are like, this kid's like lost it.
Yeah.
You know, I used to keep bats in my car in case there was like other rival kids that like ran up on us. I threw the bats out of the window. Uh, I took all my rap CDs, well, that
Yeah.
were all explicit. I threw all the explicit CDs out the window. Well, all while we're driving on the highway. Um, and one of the things that I threw out the window, which I could never explain, I was like, what was sinful nature? What was wrong about that? Was I pulled out my driver's license and I threw my driver's license out the window. And it wasn't until years later in like a preaching that I realized that God made me do that because at that moment he was giving me a new ID, a new identity.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, God, like he doesn't waste anything.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
doesn't waste anything. Like you don't know what's happening, but he's
Right.
doing something for a purpose because I'm like, okay, I know why that's bad. I know why that's bad. I was like, but why is that bad? Why did I do that?
Totally.
But and also looking back, I didn't know until I started actually reading the Bible. And at that point, I didn't even read the Bible until like almost 10 years after that experience.
Oh, wow.
Um, but after reading the Bible, it best explains what happened to me that morning because that last morning, that was the final time I was like, okay, there's something like real to this. God is like seeking me. And
Mhm.
after that, I just started to like seek him. And I was seeking him maybe not even like the right places. Like I was I was going to church, I was going to Catholic church, but I was also seeking like quantum physics, like why am I here, what's the meaning to life,
Mhm.
and stuff like that. But finally, once I read the Bible, the best thing that explained what happened that morning, because there's no reason why I should have not been 100% sober. I took a tiny little cap, and I slept, I woke up, rest of the night, I should have been 100% sober. But the Bible explained in Acts when the apostles were drunk in the Spirit,
Mm.
you know, and that's why I was like, oh my gosh. For years, I just said, I don't know what happened. I felt like I was drunk,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, and the Bible literally said drunk in the Spirit. I was like, no way, God,
Yeah.
you know. So I knew. I knew God was real, and I just got to grow in intimacy, got to experience Him, you know, and where He would give me signs, and I do things, and I know it's Him. Just too coincidental for things to be just coincidence, and I just know God is real, you know. So that's when I started to establish my relationship with Him.
Awesome. Man, that's a cool story, bro.
That's the short version.
That's the short version. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. There's a lot there. I I had this question. Now that you have a relationship with God, I do. Well, I saw your Instagram this week, or where you're in Florida. I think were you guys in Florida for a while? Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
the
After Japan.
Yeah, yeah. Um, is there anything, and it doesn't necessarily need to be, anything monetary or physical or anything like that, but is there anything that you would say, since you've built your relationship with God, you've got the Holy Spirit, is there anything that you would say that you still feel or you still see that God wants for your life? But maybe you're still like nervous about it. You're not, like, it's one of those things, they always say like, you need to be uncomfortable. You need to be a little uncomfortable. Is there anything that God has put before you, that is making you uncomfortable currently in this time and place right now?
Um, yeah. And, you know, God only wants one thing. God only wants me, you know? And the thing is, when I had nothing, God was my everything, right?
Hmm.
And I spend every moment with Him. The
Okay.
more that the more that I received what I prayed for, the more responsibilities I had, then I had kids, then I have a million things on my mind,
Yeah.
and God just wants to be with me, you know? And there are times where I'm just too busy and I forget that time with
Mhm.
him.
Yeah.
So for me to have that time, and to be able to always make time and to always be in communion with him throughout my day while I'm with him, it's a kind of ebbing and flowing
Mhm.
kind of challenge and relationship with me that I know that I need to always keep at the center and always never forget. You know, like Nelly kind of like makes a joke. Sometimes she calls me like 10-second Tom, because like there's just so many information that comes out my way that I retain it literally for like 10 seconds because I'm already thinking about the next thing. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm kind of like not speaking, and I don't even consider it a negative thing. Like when Nelly like jokes around that I have like ADD, because I kind of feel like that's my superpower, you know.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Because then I don't focus on one thing. I just juggle everything, you know. But to make sure that God is in the center of it all, and that I'm still making sure that I spend time with him. That's the only thing God wants. You know, we cannot earn our way to heaven,
Yeah.
and there's nothing that we can do to earn his love. You know, all he wants is us. You know, so, and we have to make sure that what he gives us does not take our eyes away from him. You know, so that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
The enemy must not want people to hear this,
Right. Right.
right?
All
Yeah.
right. So let's see. The last thing I heard you say. Um.
Was making my decisions,
Yes.
talking to God throughout my
Yep.
day.
Yeah.
Um Talking to God throughout my day, and especially with decision making. You know, especially with decision making, there are decisions that I wanted to make that God strictly, I know from my heart of hearts, God told me don't do that. And even though I
Mm.
wanted to do it, I knew for a fact that God didn't want me to do it. Like one of those decisions was like selling one of my homes a couple of years ago, my primary home, because I wanted to move closer to my parents. But God literally told me not to sell that house through a dream. Like after I accepted after I received an offer,
Mhm.
I had my house on sale for 6 months, and I got an offer, and it was the first offer in 6 months of being listed,
Yeah.
and it was like, I think it was like 50,000 below asking, and I was like, oh, I don't want to sell low, but I just want to get out of here,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and in that night, I told my realtor, let me just sleep on it. Me and my wife prayed. We went to bed. I literally had a dream. God told me not to sell that house. And then I woke up. I told Nelly, I was like, God gave me a concrete dream. He said, don't sell it. I told the realtor, my realtor was like, you are a nut job. You'll never get any more than that. We had this
Yeah.
listed for 6 months. We didn't get a single call. You'll never get any more than that. Um, Turns out, so that house, what I was selling for 550. They offered like five, but I ended up, that was like right before COVID. So I told
Yeah.
him I'm not going to sell it. I rented it for another 4 5 years, and then I sold it post COVID for like 850. I was like, God knows what he's doing, you know.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
just got to get out of his way and listen to him, you know. So with decision making, make sure God is always part of that decision making. It's so important.
Percent. Yeah. Wow. That's just the patience, right? Waiting on God, and just being patient, not knowing that He knows what He's doing. Um.
Amen.
All right. So shifting over to like entrepreneurship, so your business. Uh, I know you've talked about high ticket sales and those skills that were built. What would you say in that journey has been the skill that has been the, I guess, single biggest driver of your business success? And then how did you cultivate that? How did you get that? Did you buy training? Did you, mentor? Like how did that skill come about in your life?
Yeah, I would say the number one skill is just loving people.
Mhm. Wow.
Because when you love people and you genuinely want to help them achieve the goal that they want to achieve, that's how you get what you want.
Mm.
You know, I've seen it so many times in the past when like people come into sales, they join our sales team, and they're just there just to make a buck,
Yeah.
not to help people, and it comes out in how they present themselves, how they talk to their customer,
Hmm.
because the Bible says, what comes out of your mouth stems from your heart. Out
Yeah.
of the heart is what comes out of your mouth. And if your heart is just for making a dollar and closing a sale, then it's going to come out in your words. And you might make a couple of sales, but you'll never be successful in the industry,
Yeah.
because more people are going to figure you out, so that's truly, the more people that you help, the more successful that you'll be in the industry. The more you're just trying to make a sale, the less sales you'll ever make. You're going to be struggling your whole life in the industry, So for me, how I cultivated that, because when I first started, I was the other guy,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was just the desperate guy trying to make a sale
Right.
and get out of my parents' basement. And I remember my first pitch. I was like, once I saw the compensation plan for high ticket sales, and like my eyes just like widened, and I couldn't even sleep that night, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be a millionaire in
Yeah.
like a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I drew out this whole compensation plan. I went to my mechanic place. I'm like, you get 10 and he gets 10, he gets 10. We all make $1 million. And then and I remember the guy in the shop, he was like, get out of here, Jay. That's a pyramid scheme. I'm like, no, it's not. And it was like, just you get 10. Why do you not see this? And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
yeah, it was just the most ridiculous thing, you know. But as as I got to grow, and I just got to grow, and also in self development and reading books. And remember the character I never was able to talk to people.
Hmm.
But just as I just grew as a person, I grew in my faith with God. Then I just naturally just started to grow in love with people, And then I was and not being self-centered and thinking of myself and thinking about others also helped me in my relationships with other people, and being able to talk to other people and being able to build friendships and stuff, so it just naturally occurred as I grew myself as an individual.
Yeah. Yeah. Self development and people skills, right? Is just something I
Yeah.
think that probably got cultivated there. Um, all right. Uh, what is something that you used to believe about yourself that you no longer accept as true?
Oh, that's a good one. I used to
Something that you used to believe about yourself that you no longer accept as true.
that I used to believe. Um,
So maybe a negative, belief system. But this could have been way back, but something
yeah,
that you transcended that. You're beyond that now.
yeah, yeah. I mean, going way, way back. Um, I had a funny upbringing because I went to um one of the most expensive and prestigious elementary schools in New York in Staten Island. It's called St. Joseph Hill Academy.
Hmm.
So in that school, all like all the students and their families are like the wealthiest families in Staten Island, and my parents literally like scrounged up money for a living and put all their money into my education.
Yeah.
That's how Filipinos are. Like education is like number one, more above everything.
Yeah.
That's why the old Filipino guy was like, I should just go back and finish school. So they spend every dollar they can to put me into that school. And I was literally the poorest kid in school, and at the time I was like, I could never be like one of these families,
Mm.
like all of these like epic. I was even embarrassed. Like I never had a birthday party
Mm.
because I was too embarrassed to have a birthday party at I actually we did one birthday party I think in like the fifth grade in like a rest like one of those like little halls,
Yeah.
right? But I never wanted to have a birthday party because I never wanted people to I never wanted to see my classmates to see where I lived,
Yeah. Yeah.
because they all lived in like all these huge mansions in Staten Island. And I just never thought that that would be possible for myself or my family, and now I know that the sky is the limit, the
Mm.
potential. Anybody has the potential to completely change their life if they wanted to. Everyone has a potential for it, because I mean, if I could get out of where I came from, literally anybody could do it, because there was really nothing special to me. If you just look at my credentials on paper, where I went to school, the jobs that I did leading up to this, it's you would have thought I was just gonna grow up to be a failure. That all my teachers thought I was gonna be a failure. You know, I to kind of give you a timeline of my career. I worked for Dunkin' Donuts. It was my first job. No, Pizza Hut was my first job. Then Dunkin' Donuts. Then I was a security guard. Then I drove an ice cream truck, and then I was a merchandiser for Coca-Cola, and then I was a car mechanic
Wow.
leading up to sales. you know, so no Ivy League degree, no
Yeah.
school. Literally anybody could achieve they if they put their mind to it. Especially now with AI and social media,
Yeah.
most people they think, oh, they have a lot of bills, they need to get a job. Most people do not need a job. They need to make money. And there's so many different ways, better ways to make money than to have a regular 9 to 5 job,
Yeah.
So that's just
Yeah.
what we've been trained. That's what we've been
Yeah.
trained to
Because
do.
again, you're trading those hours, right? Those precious hours that you can leverage in lots of different ways now with the internet, with AI.
Yeah.
I think it's important for people to see that, and I know that there's a whole generation of kind of the older people that it's still available to, but all the technology makes them nervous, right? It's the internet and the social media and the AI now. It's a tough place to be in. I'm thankful that I kind of gravitated towards that since I was younger. I'm 54 years old, and I talk to other 54-year-olds, 55-year-olds that are just like, I don't know how to do that. What is that? How does that work? And that's another thing I think God has gifted me with, is just being able to help people along with that. I don't ever kind of talk down or look down at people. It's like, I want to get in there and help you use this tool that you have in your hand, for more than just texting and making phone calls. There's so much more you can do with it.
Yeah. 100%.
Um, all right. Last few questions here. So who in your life has challenged you to grow the most? And at the time when you met them, or they were helping you or pushing you or mentoring you or whatever it was, did you welcome it or resist it? And I know you mentioned earlier your dad and how you were kind of stubborn with that. And I don't know if that's the person, but has there been anybody like that you would point to that said, "Yeah, this person really challenged me, and it kind of pushed me to be who I am today"?
Yeah. I know exactly. Two people, my dad and my wife, you
Mm,
know.
it's good.
Both of them are both a tough love kind of person. So reason why I went to my in-laws after we rented out our house
Mm-hmm.
is because my dad wouldn't take me in.
Mm. Oh
Um,
wow.
uh, it would have been so much more comfortable just to be with my parents, but he wouldn't take me in. He was like, "No, you got yourself into this mess. You figure your way out," and that was a blessing,
Yeah, yeah.
because if I was comfortable living with my parents, then I wouldn't be crying myself to sleep. I'd have my mom cooking me breakfast every morning, and I'd be chilling.
Yeah, yeah.
So I
Yeah.
would not have been looking for that outlet. It was only because things got so dark for me that I was looking for another way. So um definitely that, and also my wife, always give me the push whenever I want to relax. I don't always like it, but I know half the time she's right. Half the time.
All right, last question. 10 years from now, what do you want to be true about who you became, and what are you doing today to make sure that happens?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we both me and my wife, we have a lot of really big goals for 10 years from now. We actually have a big whiteboard in my garage, which is like a 10-year plan. And that's where my mind now is all about legacy. The what we're going to be able to grow and leave for our kids, and train them up to be able to steward what was built now. So I would say 10 years from now, um to be just doing everything that we're doing now at a much higher level, and to be able to steward our kids to also be to learn the responsibility of what we're doing and how to carry that on, because by 10 years from now, our 11-year-old and 14-year-old is going to be in their 20s, so they're
Yeah.
going to be adults, and they could definitely carry on what we've started, and we just want to be doing everything at just a much higher level, giving at a much higher level. If we could open up another Awaken campus somewhere up here in the north,
Mm.
and help do that. What's really cool is that at church we have that program, which is called the Pathfinder Apprenticeship.
Mm-hmm.
And the end of that program, that's one of the things that um, that we present right before our graduation.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it's? I think it's called the Legacy Project.
Mm.
So what are we going to create many years from now? So it's all of that, just helping helping a lot more sales teams, having bigger sales teams, um, having a lot more real estate, giving a lot more to all the different charities, adopting, or sponsoring more kids. We've even thought about adoption,
Mm.
like if we'll see when the baby gets older. I
Yeah.
mean, we love kids. Right now we have our 1.5-year-old, so he's a handful. But we've thought about like having 6 kids total eventually, but maybe adopting the other two, and then helping our kids with just learning about business and entrepreneurship and starting their own thing, and also having their own investments. So it's just building a lasting legacy that's gonna outlive us for generations and generations. You know.
Okay, cool. So your book, is this something people can purchase?
Yeah, you could get that on Amazon. Just search Kingdom Wealth Principles. Throw my name on there. You can definitely get that book on Amazon. Hope it bless you. It's basically my journey from literally where I was when we were broke and destitute, to everything we learned about good stewardship leading up to where we are now. We know it's only because of our obedience. Our obedience with our finances, with our decision making, with our relationship with Him, that He what He wants is to make us a light to the world. And the closer we
Mm,
get to Him, the brighter the light gets inside of us, and then He'll be able to elevate us when He knows that He can trust us with more. He wants to see us see that He can trust us with the little that He puts in our hands, so that He can trust us with so much more. And our God's just got unlimited abundance in Him.
mm,
He's
yeah,
he's not on a budget.
100%. Thank God, right?
Amen.
Hey, so if anybody wants to connect with you, do you have a website or Instagram, or where would people find you on the internet?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook or Instagram. Luckily, I got a rare name where you won't get too many that pop up. Just search Jason Verdera, and then you'll be able to find me both on Instagram and Facebook.
Sounds good. Awesome. Well, thanks for being here today, Jason. Appreciate your time
Yeah,
and
thanks
your
for this, Gabe.
wisdom, your
Loved it.
knowledge, and maybe we'll revisit a part two to get the rest of that story of your younger years. At some point, at some point in the future here. So, God bless you guys. Hope you have an amazing day, and we'll see you on the next episode. Peace.